Good afternoon, everybody. If you think I'm going to risk my life with venomous snakes and you not give me enthusiasm, not going to happen. So what we're going to do is try it again. I want all the boys and girls to scream as loud as they can, good afternoon, Mason. And let's see if we can get our shy friend in the corner to actually wave back. Good afternoon, everybody. Wow, you got to move, that's amazing. My name's Pete and I've been asked to come along and talk about venomous snakes. Some of the good things, some of the bad things, some of the things you may know and some of the things you may not know. Now hands up, who can tell me the name of the only venomous snake in the UK? You have to shout really loud, mate. Adder, very, very good. Now the adder is the only venomous snake in the UK. And I can see some of you looking like you didn't know we had venomous snakes in the UK. You don't need to worry very much. The last person who died actually died in 1904. So adders aren't particularly that dangerous. Now adders are a member of the viper family. And vipers come from all over the world in all shapes and sizes. And we're going to run through a couple of vipers and show you. Now how many people here have ever seen Deadly 60? Put your hands up if you've seen Deadly 60. That lady's seen Deadly 60. We're not talking about Steve, we're talking about the snakes, madam. Okay. Now Deadly 60, when they do these programs, always try and show the biggest, the most scariest snakes and kind of talk about them being dangerous. Now we're going to put out two vipers here and you're probably going to be very disappointed in them. This is the saw-scale viper from Africa all the way round to Pakistan. Now I can see you thinking there, oh, come to see a venomous snake show, they're not very exciting, are they? Believe it or not, they are the most dangerous snakes in the world. They represent 55,000 deaths every single year. So when you look at venomous snakes and you think of king cobras and taipans, it's not them that actually cause the most problems, it's actually the small, unobtrusive ones that people don't see. So these are the saw-scale vipers. Now when we're doing these shows, we often do it to actually explain to people that venomous snakes actually don't want to attack people. They try and avoid a confrontation with people under all circumstances. And the reasons that bites occur is because we don't heed their warnings. And most venomous snakes have different warnings that they'll use to avoid a confrontation. Now this guy here, if we bring him to the front, we'll try and get him to show you the warning. Now how many people here have ever touched a python? Put your hands up if you've ever touched a python. That lady there, was it nice and smooth when you touched a python? Pythons have what they call smooth scales, and that means they're really nice to touch and run your hands on. These guys here have keeled scales, and the reason they have them is to actually allow them to give me a warning not to come too close. Now this guy here, let's see if we can get him to do his warning. There we go, he's doing it already. As my hand comes round the body here, you can see that he's kind of going in a circular motion, moving away from me, watching what I'm doing. And what he's doing there, if you take 2 bits of sandpaper together and rub them, that's the noise that he's making to me in here to actually give me that warning on not to come too close. There we go, he's moving away from me, doesn't want a confrontation. And the reason that these guys represent so many deaths is because people stand on them with bare feet. Where they come from, people walk around the villages. So these guys live around people and actually then they have a confrontation with a person because the person isn't seeing the warnings and puts their foot on them. Now as I said, vipers come in all shapes and sizes, and these are one of the smaller ones. We're going to pop these guys back and move over to Indonesia and Asia to show you one that looks completely different. Now if I do stop talking at any moment during the show, all these snakes are fully venomous. None of them have had their glands removed. And I do try and promise my mum every week that I'm not going to kill myself. Now this guy here is a white-lipped viper from Indonesia. You can see straight away he looks very different to the saw-scale viper that we've just looked at. Now these guys here represent a lot of bites as well. And what you're starting to see as we go through the show is that it's the smaller types of venomous snakes that represent the biggest danger to humans. Now you can see at the end of his tail, it's completely orange. Now these guys, the reason they cause so many accidents is where they like to live. Now if I put this guy on the white table, he shines up really, really well. But where they come from, which is tea plantations, they love sitting in a tea bush waiting for birds to come by. And these guys, you can imagine in a green bush, almost go invisible because of the camouflage. Now the camouflage is the way they use to avoid a confrontation, but actually it kind of acts as a negative because we as stupid humans never kind of look. So what they've actually got, they've designed a system. You see the end of his tail is bright orange, and what he'll do in the bush, if a person comes too close, he starts shaking his tail, creating like a rustling noise, and experienced tea pickers will then know not to put their hands in here. Now this guy here, with his orange tail, also is an interesting feeder. As you see, he's very comfortable on this hook, and that's because he's an arboreal snake, which means that they live in branches. And what he'll do is he'll let his orange tail dangle beneath the branch, kind of wiggling like a worm, and the bird will then come in thinking he's got a juicy worm, and actually all he is this snake's lunch. Now these guys are very fast at striking. They can actually strike and inject venom at a 25th of a second. So they can strike out, come back in a 25th of a second. They are so fast that they can actually grab birds mid-flight. So they're very, very fast in their reactions. And you can see his S up is all poised, ready to strike out. But he's not attacking because I'm not pushing my boundaries, and so the snake is actually very comfortable. Now we're going to move on to a different viper now. It's a bigger one, and hopefully you'll be able to recognise it and tell me what type of snake it is. You can see it's much bigger than the other ones, and that is the thing about vipers, they do get much bigger. Now have a look at the tail. Put your hands up if you can tell me what type of... Whoa, that was fast, man. What snake is it? Rattlesnake. This is a western diamondback rattlesnake, the second biggest of all the rattlesnakes. And you can see it's got the best warning mechanism pretty much of most snakes. That tail at the end there can actually shake at 55,000 times a second, producing a noise up to about 105 dB. Now when you look at venomous snakes, you need to think about why they've got that warning. Now where they come from in North America on the prairies, there's lots of herds of animals, from deer to bison to horses. So these guys need a big, big warning to actually tell the bison to go in a different direction. Now every time the snake sheds its skin, the rattle will get one piece bigger. So they actually have, by the time they're adult, a very, very big warning system. Now rattlesnakes also have two extra bits on the front of their face called pits, and it actually makes them into a subfamily of the pit vipers. And that is equivalent of our police helicopters when you see them on TV and they're chasing after some car thief, and you can see that they're picking up the body heat by the cameras they're using. This guy has got exactly the same technique for hunting mice. So they do an excellent job of that. Now all vipers have another unique system in their body, in the fact that they've actually got fangs that are much bigger than other venomous snakes. They go all the way up to 2.5 inches. Now people always say, how come they can shut their mouth with a 2.5 inch fang? Well, they have a unique system that actually hinges the fang and puts it on the roof of the mouth when they're not actually feeding and not actually using the fangs. So we thought it'd be interesting for you guys to actually see the fangs quite up close. So I'm going to use a technique that is used all around the world in relation to holding a venomous snake. And what I'm going to do is bring the fangs to you so you can actually come down and take pictures. Now the fangs are on hinges, so by opening the snake's mouth, I can actually bring the fangs into view. If you want to come down and take pictures, that's absolutely fine. Now the fangs are like hypodermic needles. They're connected to a tube that goes to the back of the head, and the head has a venom gland that the snakes control. It is actually possible for a venomous snake to bite something and not choose to use any venom. And so people can actually have an accident with a venomous snake and have no symptoms of the venom. Now every time we open its mouth, sometimes you'll see two fangs on one side. And that actually means that the fangs is ready to be replaced. So one will drop out and the other one will just be there to replace it. Now when a human accident does occur, that person will be treated with anti-venom. The way they make anti-venom, they'll take a guy like me, they'll catch the venomous snakes, they'll milk the venom, they'll then strip it down into components and inject that into a horse or sheep, and over a period of 6 months, that horse or sheep will become totally immune to the venom, and then when a person gets bitten, they'll take a pint of that blood, strip it down, and then use it for anti-venom on people. Just a couple more pictures. Now, as I said, the Western Diamondback is the second largest rattlesnake in North America, and they actually grow to about 8 foot. Everybody has their pictures, that's cool. We're going to move on to a different group of snakes, and I'm going to put this guy back. Now the way we handle our venomous snakes, we do try and be very relaxed with them, and sometimes that means they actually don't perceive us as a threat, so when we're trying to demonstrate the warnings they give, they won't actually do it. Now, one of the questions I'm always asked is how snake charming works, and how do these charmers get the cobras to make cobras dance. So what we thought we'd do is teach everybody how snake charming works, and get a couple of volunteers and train them up at the front. So who wants to be I need 2 people to be my volunteer. That lady at the back, you can come down straight away. She's very enthusiastic. We need one more. You can do it. Now what I want you to do, can I just say that you volunteered before you even know what you're doing? So now you're going to be a little bit nervous. I want you to kneel down in front of the table. Okay? Kneel down. And what I want you to do is show everybody how good you are at doing this. Okay? I want you to do it. Do it. Okay, do it now. Now. Do it. Show everybody how you can do it. Okay? Now your job now, I'm going to pull a snake out and put it on the table. Your job is to keep me safe by keeping the cobra attention at you guys. Okay? If the cobra's facing me, you're not doing a very good job, I'm going to die, and it's going to be your fault. Okay? You're not meant to cheer when I say I'm going to die. When I just say that, that's a bit mean. Okay, we're going to put a cobra out now. Now these guys are forest cobras. Let's see what happens when we pull this guy out. You've got to start your movement straight away so that he sees you and you get your attention. There we go, we've got a nice little hood going up. There we go, he's keeping an eye on you, doing an excellent job. And the way that snake charming works is that they're doing a critical distance with the snake. The snake's perceiving them as a threat, but not an overt threat that they want to attack and bite. So by keeping this distance, these guys are doing a fantastic job. That snake's not even looking at me. I could kiss it on the head right now, but I wouldn't. That's dangerous. And I'm not recommending anybody goes and kisses cobras on the head, can I just point out. But you can see that the hood is up, but he's not actually shooting forward with his mouth open, ready to bite. And that's excellent. And that's the way the snake charmers work. Now people always say to me, what does the flute do? You can see these guys playing the flute, and the snake's kind of reacting. Is he reacting to the music they're playing? Do they prefer rap music? No, all snakes are deaf, and therefore that you will never ever see a snake charmer charming a cobra without keeping the flute moving. It's the motion that creates the effect, and that's what creates the dance, as you can see here with the cobra. Now these guys, can I just say, have done a fantastic job, best charmers of the week. So can you all put your hands together on how brave they've been charming these cobras. So you want to go back to your seats, and I'm going to put this guy back. There we go, it's a nice little warning there. So you want me to die, so I'm just going to clip this, let the snake have you. So we're going to put this guy back. Now these guys, as you can see from how active they are just as happy in the trees as they are on the ground. And they spend 50% of their time in the trees. Now we're going to pull out a couple of snakes. They're a good example. I don't need to pull out a couple of snakes, it's coming out to see me. We're going to pull out a couple of snakes that actually are a good example of snakes that do good things for people. Now this is a monocle cobra. The monocle cobras, I have to say, I know you'll find this insulting, but these guys are the Forrest Gumps of the venomous world. They're kind of a bit stupid, and when you deal with things like forest cobras and mammals, these guys always seem a bit slow. And you can see he's not showing any hood whatsoever. But back in the 70s, these guys were killed in massive numbers for their meat and skin. The reason this guy is so active, by the way, is just coming up to his feeding day. So he thinks daddy's going to feed him. Now back in the 70s, when they were killed in big numbers, these guys were killed and they got quite rare. And also that had an effect on the villagers that they hadn't anticipated. The first one was they had a lot more illnesses, and the second one was that they had a lot less money. And that's because these guys live around the rice fields and they kill all the mice and rats that live around there. So when you kill the snake, the mice and rats will grow in numbers, and they actually will lose some of their crops to the mice and rats. And also mice and rats carry diseases. And diseases that pass on to people, and so the people were getting ill. So what they did, we then put actually these snakes on a system called CITES, and CITES protects all animals and all wildlife. It's the law that actually represents elephants and rhinos and protects them, or doesn't protect them from being killed. And when they did that, and people stopped killing these snakes, what happened was the numbers came back up, and they found that the villagers had more money at the end of the month, and also that people were getting less ill, because there was a lot less disease going around. But what I'm going to do is a finale for this snake, see if we can get the hood up for you. There we go, a little bit, just a little bit there, there we go. So he does have a hood, but he actually doesn't want to use it. And this is an important part. You can see venomous snakes aren't all aggressive and evil. They really don't want to use their venom unless they really have to. So I'm going to pop this guy back, and we're going to move on to a world record holder. Back for you. Now I'm going to go quite slow, but you can go back in there, buddy, you're not coming out again. So the next one is a world record holder. I am going to go quite slow. Can you keep the kids sat on the seat, because this guy is very nervous, and you'll understand when I tell you what the world record is. This guy is the taipan. And taipans are the world's most venomous snakes. Now you see I'm moving much slower because he will react to virtually everything. Now as I say, taipans are the world's most venomous snake. To give you an idea of how we measure that, we take an average bite and how much venom they use in an average bite. And we take that figure and we say, how many mice can that kill? Well, this guy here can kill 400,000 mice with one bite. That's how venomous he is. But even this guy has some positives. The first one is they're diurnal, and that means they're very active during the day in the Australian sun, and they'll spend all the time in the cornfields actually hunting mice and rats. So the Australian farmers are very pleased to have these guys here, because of the fact that they hunt there and they're a really good pest control for them. Now the second way that this guy is very good is a new area that all venomous snakes are now being used for, and that's medicine. The saw scale viper that we started off with at the beginning of the show, that has a venom that works on blood. So it makes your blood thinner or thicker. So for people who have problems with their blood and getting too thick or being too thin, they are now using the saw scale viper to actually treat illnesses. This guy has a venom that works on your nervous system. So when they work on the nervous system, they're now using this guy, splitting the venom down and using the venom for diseases like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, other neurological diseases. If you think about Parkinson's, where you have the muscle tremors, the venom from this guy can be used to stop that happening. So they're really, really good. They're also a really, really good example of why accidents happen. The inland taipan is the #2 most venomous snake in the world, but it's never killed a human being because of the fact that where it lives, humans don't go to, and therefore you never have that confrontation. Now, if you think about the recent alligator things in Florida that have happened, it's exactly what the same reason occurs in reverse. When we start going to live in places that have a natural environment, we start entering their territory, and that means you get that crossover, and because we're not paying heed to their warnings, you then get accidents occurring. If we listen to the body language and what they're doing, we can avoid a confrontation because they really, really don't want to use it. So this taipan is actually very, very good for medicine. You see that? They pick up on motion very, very fast. So we're going to put this guy back so he doesn't get too stressed. And we're going to move on to a kind of more famous venomous snake. And as I say, we always go slow with our venomous snakes so they don't get too stressed. And even a really nervous snake like this, you can see, doesn't attack if it can possibly avoid it. Now we're going to pull out probably the best warning mechanism of any venomous snake. Although the rattlesnakes are very low, the cobras are a family of snakes that give you the most visual warning. So we're going to pull out this little fella down here. He's about 9 foot long. We can give a nice big warning out. I'm going to pull him out here, get him out to the floor, and then put him on the table to show you. Not coming out today, so I'm just going to pull out the table. There we go, nice and out. Look at it, Mason, and away we go. So this is a world record holder. The longest venomous snake in the world. This is the king cobra. And what we'll do is get him hooded up so he's nice and happy. There we go. So it's a beautiful warning system. Now king cobras are the longest venomous snakes in the world. They can grow to 18 foot long as an adult male. They can hood up 30% of their body. And to anybody that's good at maths, these guys can hood up 6 feet in the air and look you in the eye. And you can see my friend here who absolutely loves snakes, he's watching the movements and watching what's going on. Now king cobras are the best parents of any snake. The male and the female will make eggs and mate, but they'll then build a nest and guard that nest until the eggs are ready to hatch. And at certain times during the year, audiences and people on holiday are not allowed to go to the jungles because of the fact these guys are being very territorial about their nest and trying to protect their young. And that's often something that's not seen with reptiles. So just like a mother elephant will get angry in relation to a baby, these guys will get angry when they think their nest is being threatened. Now just like some of the other snakes, they have an interest in venom, and they're now using it in lots of different diseases to help people. Now one of the other things these guys do, this king cobra, believe it or not, is not related to the other cobras. They are a unique species, and their scientific name is Ophiophagus hanna, and that literally means snake-eating king. One of the things they do for positive for people, apart from medicine, is the fact that they will keep the venomous snake population down in the villages by eating them. Their favourite food is other venomous snakes. So So they do a good job there in helping people. Now as you go on holiday and you go to some tropical place, you might come across a venomous snake. And I hope that you remember the show as we've shown you that venomous snakes really don't want to attack you, and if you just take a step back, the snake will go off in a different direction to leave you alone. So I hope you have a good afternoon. I hope you've enjoyed the show, learned a few things about how important venomous snakes are about ecosystems. I'm going to leave the king cobra on the table for a couple of minutes so you can all come down and take good pictures. Thank you very, very much for enjoying the show, and I hope you have a great afternoon. Ready.